Hello there guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Now today's video is going to be a little bit different because we're going to be talking about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Fallen Order releases in just over a week now, so it'll be a week and 2 days on Friday the 15th of November. So this video is going to be the 3 things I want to see in the game and 3 things I don't want to see in the game. Just a quick disclaimer as well that a lot of these things will link together, so do bear with me as I'm going through them. But if you do enjoy the video, then don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any more of my content. So I'm going to start off with the 3 things that I want to see. First of all, this one I really don't ever expect to see anything like it. We know Fallen Order is a single player game, so I don't expect Respawn to go and change this in any way, but I feel like it would be really interesting if we got some sort of multiplayer dueling mode. So heavily inspired by For Honor, I think this would be amazing to have. We could customize our lightsabers differently as well. We know that there's going to be some customization in the game, and I feel like if we could use different characters from the story, it would be really interesting as well. So like Cal, the second sister, the ninth sister, all these other characters as playable heroes or something in this multiplayer dueling environment, because I feel like having some sort of multiplayer aspect in the game would also be very interesting. Like I said, this isn't something I'd like to see at launch, but many months down the line perhaps it would be great, because I feel like for many players as well this would actually just improve the replayability of the game. It would just make things a lot more interesting, and in terms of Respawn's point of view, then the game would probably definitely sell a lot more copies kind of further down the line if people found out they were going to be getting a multiplayer experience, simply because a lot of people may not want to play single player games, so having a multiplayer dueling mode would kind of perhaps suit them. And if we saw some sort of private matches as well in that sense, then people could set up tournaments, and I genuinely feel like that with this thoughtful combat system that they've got going on, multiplayer dueling mode would honestly be one of the most perfect modes for the game if they were to add this. Now, like I said, I don't ever expect to see this multiplayer experience in the game, but I really do feel like it could really add on another level to it. But if we don't see that, then I feel like it would be really interesting to see that Gauntlet mode, where I think Gauntlet is basically just a test environment where you can try out your combat and force abilities and various things like that. I think it was more kind of like a dev thing, but I think they're going to be working on it for post-launch anyway, which is really good to hear, because I feel like if you could tweak different settings and things like that, you could have a more like engaging experience. You could change different gameplay mechanics and stuff like that, and it would just add a lot more replayability to it. So you could, if you're getting stuck on the story perhaps at this certain boss fight, you might be able to go and test your abilities perhaps in this Gauntlet mode and really just try and adapt and get better, and then you can go back into that boss fight and win. I feel like in that sense it would really help players learn through the story. It would help people learn the combat, and I just feel like it would make things a lot more interesting and replayable. So in a way, that's kind of 2 things I want to see in the game already, really. I'll mention this a little bit later on, the kind of things I don't want actually. So the next and last thing I really want to see in the game are side missions. Now, I'm pretty sure it has been said somewhere that there will be side quests in the game, which I'm very, very happy to hear about. The only thing I don't want to see is maybe having like 2 or 3 side missions per place. I want to see a good amount of side missions per planet, and if we do see side missions on that planet, then I don't want them to necessarily be limited to this planet. So let's say we had a side mission on Kashyyyk, I don't want that side mission to necessarily be limited to just an area in Kashyyyk. Perhaps there might be some sort of Wookiee and he wants a sort of resource that's only on Dathomir. Then you'll go to Dathomir, you'll get that resource, you'll go back to Kashyyyk, and then you'll obviously claim your reward, which could perhaps be a customization piece, we don't know. But I feel like if we saw that, then it would make side missions a lot more interesting and enjoyable, and it would obviously just add up the hours in terms of gameplay, because if we saw just the linear story, then it could very well be, I don't know, 15 to 20 hours perhaps. But if we saw side missions as well, depending on how many there are and the length of each one, we could go and see like another 10 to 20 hours on top of that as well perhaps. Moving on now to the things I don't want to see. It's again kind of 2 linked into one really. I'm going to start off with this one though, and I just don't want to see a short story. This game we've known about it for quite a while actually, obviously with the name being dropped at EA Play in 2018 and the first trailer at Star Wars Celebration earlier this year. But I really don't want a short story. I've been looking forward to this game for so long, and every time we see a trailer or different gameplay features from game changers or officially released stuff by EA. It's just I get really excited for this game. I don't want to have my expectations kind of ruined, I guess really. The kind of worry I have really is the fact that we've only really seen 4 to 5 planets at the moment, these being Zepho, Dathomir, Kashyyyk, Bracca and Bogano. So there are 5 planets in total we know about so far. So my main worry is that we will just have a fairly short story, which we obviously don't want to see. We haven't seen anything else regarding any other planet, so I am worried about a short story. If they made each environment like genuinely massive and had story in there, then you could see it get pushed perhaps to like 15 to 20 hours maybe. But I feel like we could see like maybe 8 different planets, and we could have either a longer story, or we could just see, instead of having like 3 hours per planet, it could be 2 hours per planet instead, perhaps. You know, you never know how long it's going to take to really go through this, really. But this leads on to the next point, and that is I don't want to see only 5 planets in the game. Obviously, we know about those 5 I just mentioned before, but I want to see at least a minimum of 7 to 8, to be honest. Any more than that, I will be more than happy. But if we see only 5 planets, I feel like the game can get quite tedious and repetitive fairly quickly with the different environments. Obviously, it's great, but some of them so far do look fairly similar in a way, like Zepho and Bogano, I think, do look sort of similar. Kashyyyk in a way, I guess, with Bogano perhaps. I don't know. I mean, it is a concern of mine because I don't want a short story. I don't want to see only 5 planets in the game, because if we do, I just feel like things will genuinely get repetitive pretty quickly. So if we saw 8 planets, then we have a lot more to explore, a lot more different gameplay opportunities as well, with different leveling possibilities, more story involved, a lot more lore, different side quests as well. So I feel like more planets would definitely benefit the game, unless it was at some sort of ridiculous number, like, I don't know, 15 planets, and you had a very short amount of time for each one. But based on what game changers have played so far, I think Azatru spent 3 hours on Zepho and was nowhere near completing it. So in terms of how big the levels are, I'm not particularly worried. As long as they're not too linear, then that would be amazing. Obviously we're going to need something for the story, but obviously in terms of exploration and other things, a linear map design would be a little bit frustrating. But anyway guys, I'm going to move on to the next point now, and that is repetitive combat. This is a thing that I am a little bit worried again with, to be honest. We know that Fallen Order is going to have this thoughtful combat system that they've developed over at Respawn, but I want to be able to have an in-depth skill tree where we can really focus on our different force abilities, perhaps lightsaber combos as well, and just various other ways to develop our abilities with the force and just lightsabers to make combat an ever-growing thing, and something that if we wanted to go back and replay a level, if that's possible, then we can go and do that. Each experience can be different to one another, and I don't want to be fighting a Purge Trooper in each battle being exactly the same, because if it was like we find a Purge Trooper in Kashyyyk, then let's say we find another Purge Trooper a little bit later on in the level, I don't want that to be, I don't want the fight to be exactly the same. You know, I want each fight to be slightly different in some way, so that I don't really get bored of the game, and so that I don't know his exact moves. You know, obviously we want different boss fights to be very different. We want new challenges. We want unique challenges as well. So yeah, okay, the Purge Trooper is going to be the same units, but if we can just somehow get the fights to be slightly different each time, then things won't get too repetitive, which will be really good. That's pretty much it for this video, guys. Those are the 3 things I want to see in Fallen Order, and the 3 things I don't want to see in Fallen Order. Obviously, a lot of those things will link up together in some way, shape or form, so hopefully we get to see many of those in the game at some point. Obviously, with the multiplayer or the Gauntlet stuff, it would be nice to be able to see that at some point down the line. But if you do enjoy the video, guys, then let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you guys want to see from Fallen Order and what you don't want to see as well. I'm very excited for the game in a week and a half. I am obviously a little bit worried about the length of the story and various other things, but hopefully everything will be okay. Thank you all very much for watching, and may the Force be with you always.